Right, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm really happy. I'm really glad I came to this meeting. I think that it's partially Johnny Larkin's and Pepe's fault. So thank you. So I will walk you through a little bit what we are doing with links and what the challenges are, and then try to connect it to how it intersects with what's going on in the BD2K program. So we are part of this links program. Does this work? Yeah. The links program has 6 data and signature generation centers that produce various types of cell-based perturbation data, which I will explain in a little bit. And then there's this data coordination integration center. And then we are also part of the BD2K consortium that, as you all know, has 11 centers of excellence, and then it has the broad center. I think this is the same like this connectivity map here. And then it has, of course, the BioCaddy pilot project as well. So we're in the middle. So our primary task is to really work in the links consortium, make sure all this data can come together, and all this data is being organized. But you know, as we do this, basically serve as some kind of integration between those two programs. In 2 ways, by leveraging technologies that are being developed in the BD2K consortium, and on the other hand, and I won't talk about those things today. I will talk more about like the integration of the data, metadata, and that. But on the other hand, also make links data accessible for groups here who use develop predictive technologies to make this available and make it overall kind of more productive. So very briefly, our center is so the PIs are Avi Mayan in New York, and Mari Medvedevich at the University of Connecticut, and myself at the University of Miami. And we basically have 4 components. It's to build an integrated knowledge environment. And then we have data science research. We have an administrative component, you know, that is also responsible to coordinate with BD2K. And then we have a quite active training and outreach component. So I will really only talk about some of the IKE aspects. But really briefly to mention it, the DSR also includes several external groups that I indicate here. So now I think I want to mention like some of the links goals, not all of them, of course, we can discuss here, but some of them are of course to make the links data accessible and useful. So we need to worry about attribution, scalability, interoperability, all of those things that we discussed in the meetings here. One common place to access all the links data. And then of course beyond that, you know, we want to have a place like DataMed to access, you know, all types of data sets in the world, right, including links. So while this is what I mean with working between those 2 projects, right? Making links data all accessible and then trying to work with others in the consortium to making links kind of a part of the overall ecosystem. Right? So having transparent data processing pipelines that there's evidence, provenance, and that they are verifiable. Data becomes reusable, that software analysis tools are directly associated with those tools, and then we have training and outreach, so we reach some kind of audience. And then eventually, and then this will link to the dataset landing pages that I will describe. Persistence of this data beyond the links program, this is always a challenge because those projects don't live on forever. So how can we have them citable? They can be in long-term repositories, have persistent identifiers, and then are maintainable without actually the links program being there anymore, right, at some point in the future. So you can probably see that this is very aligned, right, with goals. This was joint declaration of data citation principles that you're all very familiar with. We have already heard them today. You know, to be able to have attribution, persistence, unique identifiers, data access, verifiability, interoperability, and so on. Right? So we are trying to, in the solution that we build, we are trying to address those types of challenges. Right? And then the dataset landing pages contribute to those goals. So essentially are a mechanism to combine the metadata, the data processing pipelines, the repositories, the identifiers, the kind of code that processes all the data kind of in one place, linking all of them together, right? And then I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself here, that then those dataset landing pages could, for example, live on the commons, right? And then link to all of those other resources. And by doing so, all the data would be essentially persisting forever as long as those reference resources exist in the data repositories list, but independent from a particular project like links or any particular BD2K center, for example, right? So, and now we implement this in the links data portal, and I will show you this in a little bit more detail later. We have this catalog that has all the data sets in there. We have the landing pages, and it has data descriptions, and it has all the metadata that are related to one kind of like data set, and then it allows to download the data, and then we're also adding soon analysis tools, visualization, and the community page to this, right? So, so now, with that, I will just walk you through really quick, like about how we do all the data processing, all the annotation, and then the publication of all the links data. So to start with, I want to point out that links, in contrast to like many other programs, are quite diverse. So it produces a lot of transcriptomics data, proteomics data, biochemical data, epigenetics data, imaging data. And basically the goal is to put them all together and kind of bring them all together, and this it touches a little bit on ways to make those non-obvious connections, right? That, of course, in a way, the design of many of those data and signature generation centers, but also overall in links, we want to see, of course, something where ultimately the sum is bigger than all the parts, right? So putting all of this together, and the foundation, of course, are those metadata standards, and I explained them and presented them in one of the metadata working group meetings from March, so I will only like refresh this here really quick. So we have, for all of those categories, developed metadata standards, and the dots just simply indicate the number of fields here, and those are public on the link positive offset, but as Susanna pointed out, working with Kali Chang in the group, they have also been made accessible on biosharing, and this is great, you know, because this is now a mechanism where they can actually be much more useful in the community. All right, so we have also done a lot of work to harmonizing the data levels. So data levels simply refers to like raw data, processed raw data, normalized per sample, which can be used for statistical analysis, and then the signature level, which can be used for connecting perturbations. So we have pretty much aligned this in links for a couple of data sets based on using some other prior information, for example, from TCGA and from the broad. We have some more work to do, but I think it will be useful to have those different levels so people kind of know if they act, depending on what type of user they are, right? Do they just want to have signatures, or they want to have all the raw data, and so on. This harmonization, of course, simplifies the data and facilitates the integration. And then we have also done a lot of work and talking, we as the data coordination center from links, to basically build and validate data processing pipelines to move from level to level, and essentially rebuild them, test them, and then essentially validate them. And there are some examples here on GitHub, for example, for the L1000 pipeline, and we're building a couple of other ones. And then those also will go into the dataset landing pages to basically have this reference that also Lucilla mentioned, but you need to have this code to process the data. Otherwise, you know, it's really not very well reproducible, right? So now we have built this data processing pipeline, right, in which we basically access information from the ES3Cs via a couple of different mechanisms, either from the website or via APIs or via dataset submission tools. And then those metadata and data get processed. You know, they get metadata gets associated with data and registered in a dedicated informatics system, metadata registry. And then that's basically, there's an API on top of this, and then everybody can query this. And then those packages, the metadata and data gets packaged together, and then they are published in the data portal. I will show you how it looks. So the pipeline looks kind of like, again, like where we access the data and the metadata, we do validation, we processing them, we do QC and validation, then we release them, right? This is a fairly formal process. It needs to be very formal because really the groups who produce the data, right, they want to be sure that this is all good, this looks exactly how they want it to look at the end in the data portal, right? Because it's the data that they produce, and it needs to be a very clear process and to publish this data. But you can also imagine, I want to point this out, that this operation to do this with 6 centers, and they're all operating a little bit different. It's quite challenging, right? So you need to work through a lot of issues to actually do this and have a reliable process that eventually allows you to publish all the data, right? So we have some tools that facilitate this. We created a submission tool for all of these different types of metadata categories, and I also presented this in one of the metadata working groups, so we don't need to go through this a lot. But basically what it allows you to do is basically you can upload your data and then you can map them there, and you can save the mapping, and this way you can upload it. You're always going to know what type of whatever somebody mentions in the data file is actually correspond to what the specific field in the metadata specifications that we have developed as links, right? And now to expand this further, we're now working with Mark's group, and I will explain this a little bit later. To basically bring this all into the data environment, right? Where then it will really allow us to go beyond just one project, like links, but to something that will live beyond links in a way, right? So now what you have to do when you process all this metadata, as you all know, I'm sure, is you basically have to take the submission that comes from some group, right, and standardize it all and register it all, so you have a representation that's actually consistent. Independent from where it was arrived, independent from how it was submitted in a way, right? So essentially what we have to do, we are getting those metadata, right? And then we go to the staging table, and then basically there's a standardization process, and then this goes into basically a DCSC standard table, right? After extensive processing, right? Processing also gets saved, then we take in the input from the DSGCs and to standardize kind of like a registration table, make a view, and then this view is used in the data packaging to basically package up the data sets, right, with all the metadata provided but connect to all the standardized representations so that all the data at the end fits together really well and can be integrated. So we did a lot of work on small molecules. So just released for molecules for September 2016. And I bring this up for small molecules because it's challenging to do this. The reason, one indication of why this is challenging is, for example, like we saw earlier, right, the predictions to map small molecules. I think there were the recall and precision and recall was just 50 to 60, 70%, right? So it's difficult. So you need to actually have standardized molecular representations of those, and that involves a couple of fairly sophisticated steps to do this. But if you do it, then you can take those compounds and you can basically map them to PubChem, map them to Campbell, and via Unichem map them to 80 or 90 other resources, and then they can all be integrated. But then it's great, that some other folks use this already via Unichem to actually make use of links data, right? And then if you do this, now we can, if you have data from different links groups, we standardize to put them in this metadata registry, and then we can take from various resources, Campbell, DrugBank, PubChem, and so on. We can take all these annotations and map them onto those links compounds, and then when we have this, we have much enriched information. So, for example, we know that there are several FDA-approved drugs, molecular probes, PDB ligands, right? And here are just a few statistics of the types of information we get from those resources, right? So we can generate a lot of annotations of targets for those compounds, and then we can use to analyze all the data, right? And if you do this, then you can just map them onto an ontology that we have developed in another project, in this Illuminating the Drug as a Genome project, and you can basically see that a lot of targets are covered here, and if you look at, of course, unsurprisingly see a lot of kinase coverage, but also a huge amount of GPCR coverage. But there's no coverage, also non-surprisingly, those olfactory receptors over here, right? But then if you see this, you can perhaps suggest that a lot of the phenotypic responses and the biological activity of links compounds is not only related to kinases, which is one of the biggest focus in cancer, but also certainly the GPCRs. There's a lot of activity on GPCRs of those compounds. So you can see this kind of right away here. So we do other work. We also integrate not only the compounds, but also the other entities, and that is something we have recently done with with Oliver here in Michigan, who is one of our external data science projects, to basically map all the linked cell information from the pilot phase and the phase now, the production phase. We have like 1,000 cell lines. So we took all of them with him and Campbell, aligned them all with CLO, identify all the missing entries, and basically add them all there, and then map them to the cell types, the disease oncology, and also to tissues and organs. And then if you look at the results, right, it results in like in improving CLO, generate like a subset from CLO directly for linked cell lines, and then we can find like, you know, how many cell types, how many tissues and organs, and how many diseases are linked to cell lines. So this is pretty much finished now. I won't go into detail, but you know, given like small molecules and cell lines and proteins and you know all the different assays, you know, we are making this links metadata ontology, and the point of this is kind of very similar to we want to basically find non-obvious way of integrating all the links data, integrating biochemical data with transcriptional data, with proteomics data. And we are developing the system so we can basically make those connections and ask, you know, some of those non-obvious questions, right? So I don't have time to go into detail, and it's not completed, not released. But if you have questions, please ask us. So now, how is this implemented, right? So I show you this data portal now. So all of the information goes together into the data portal. So here is a new summary landing page we made. So basically, you can go to assay technologies like methods, subject areas, the centers, processes, projects, and so on. And for example, here centers, you find all the different centers. If you look at methods, you can see all the methods here. You can see what assays apply. Right? And then you can see here an assay overview page. And then you can go also to a catalog. Right? Here are all the catalogs. You see all the different facets here again, method, subject area, center, and so on. But you can choose all of this for more like context sensitive searching here. So it knows what small molecules, what cell lines, all of those things, that you can find them, you can access those data sets, download them, or then map them to go to the link to the data set landing pages, and then this has several tabs here with the description page, has the description, IDs, and so on, citation information about those links to the data source and all of that, and then also has assay description and categories of assays here, which is also indicated up here. And then you have, of course, all the metadata, as you see, for example, for molecules, cell lines, genes here. And they're all searchable in here, downloadable from here, and we have all of those annotations in here that we collected. And then you can download the information, and you can see the different data levels here, data level 1 to 3, and then what the version is, what the size, you get an idea of how big this is, and you can access the data in that way. So we also did this now, it's not quite released yet, but we did this now for the metadata, for all the metadata entities as well. So for example, for molecules, you can see here, like you can search for all the different drugs, like this. Like you see like a few here, and you can see the various tags that you have there. And then you can go to the detailed page to see all the information, identify information, and which information was submitted by the groups, and which assays and data sets they are linked to, and you can also see like what the linked data sets specifically there are, and access them as well. And doing the same like for those other metadata categories, right? So now let me move on here. Like how do we now? We do all of this in links. I try to clean up all this links data, make it all nicely accessible. But now we need to do it like really join links, right? So to tell you like a little bit about what we're now doing to make this kind of like fair, like more in the greater context, right? So, and I mentioned many of those things, harmonized data levels, published metadata specifications, and all of them, standardized registration, map to reference identifiers, and external resources, and then try to make it really persistent via like those kind of landing pages, right? So now one way of how we want to do this, and how we're doing this actually right now with Musen, CDAP Center, taking all of those groups, taking all of those link centers, right? They're all registering the data in our metadata registry, various linked data standards that are that you can search all in linked data portal, but now basically mapping those, building templates with Mark's group. We did this now I started to do this now for cell lines and small molecules. And then if you build those, now all of those resources will now become much easier reusable by other groups, right? So now somebody else uses the same things that would be basically natively integrated, right? Not having even to map those types of like standards that we have built. So we are working towards that. With John, I think who's sitting there, basically native schema for cell lines, right? This, won't go into detail, but basically having these annotations, tissues, organs, cell type, characteristics in the specifications, all the batch information provided by the centers, right, and then implemented in a template. This is a really early version. I think we have a much better version now. So this can be captured, right? And okay, we do this. We of course work a lot with the BD2K group. I think it's been quite successful, and I'm really impressed in this meeting to see like how much progress there is. It's very great to see. So we are the links data for the APIs. BD2K basically sucks in all of the links data sets, of course, among many others. And then you see them here. Basically, they're all here, and you can basically find them, right? And then you can link them. They have a link to the data portal. So just going to mention one other thing. This is Psyche Light, the Chrome plugin that actually an undergrad in Avi's group made over the summer. So kind of cool. So you can go and basically go to DataMat and kind of just click the cite button, and will basically just allow you to cite from DataMat directly. Also allows you to cite articles from PubMed, and then also highlight text like in the abstract. So this is quite nice. But then, and so I'm at the end now, I think I just want to brought this up, maybe for discussion later. We also want to do like, probably still a little bit better job in aligning all the different metadata, right? So, for example, these are BD2K data types. That you see them if you click on data types, they're nicely organized. I think there was actually a recent change that we suggested. I think you could do like align data type, subject domain, technology, and so on, right? Like, the patterns that we have, methods, subject area, and data types, I think you can align them all and maybe map them to reference ontologies, so that then you're kind of speaking all this kind of one language about this, right? So some more work to do, but I think it's going in the right direction. So I have to thank a lot of people in my group, to Caroline, it's in Avi's group, Landis, and Mario's group. We work with Oliver, of course, Avi, Mario, the Smart Movement team, the BD2K team. We have all the group here, and of course this is all funded by the NIH Links program and the Big Data to the BD2K program from NIH. So thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. Very nice. Thank you.